Hello viewers, welcome to CEC lectures. Myself Dr. Preeti Jagwani from Department of Computer Science, Aryabhat College, University of Delhi. So today's topic is entity relationship diagram, and you must have observed that in this series of database management systems we have studying this entity relationship diagram for quite some time, and now today in this lecture what are we going to do, we'll quickly recap the utility and the elements of entity relationship diagram, how to make this entity relationship diagram right from the scratch, that we are going to see along with an example. So let us take a recap and then we'll proceed further. So entity relationship diagram, as you all are aware, that it is basically a figure, it's basically a graphical representation of the relationship among entities in a database, and it is commonly known as ER diagram, or in short form ERD. So ERD basically used while designing the database. It's a kind of modeling the database on we can say on paper, and then it will be translated, or it will be conceptualized into a physical database. So an ER diagram in DBMS is going to play a crucial role in designing of the database. So basically we can say this ER diagram is a structural design of the database, a kind of framework in which some specialized symbols are used. These specialized symbols can be for entity, for relationships, or for attributes, and for various kinds of attributes we have different symbols. So basically a framework created with specialized symbols, and the purpose of creation of this framework is to define the relationship between entities. And what are the three principal components of this ER diagram? These are entities, attributes, and relationships. And now we will quickly see what are the types of these entities, attributes, and relationships. So as far as entities are concerned, we can have strong entities as well as weak entities. So strong entities are those who are having key attribute, or we can say an attribute which is there, which is going to be used to identify the entities uniquely. So that is what you call a key attribute. So primary key is also an we can say example of the key attribute. Apart from that, there can be weak entities which do not have any key attribute. As far as attributes are considered, these are properties of entities. These attributes can be composite attributes. So for example, address, this address can be divided into street number, then house number, then locality, then city. So it can be considered as a composite attribute. Then there can be multi-valued attributes, the attributes for which there can be multiple values. So for example, let us say mobile number. Nowadays it's common to have a mobile number, multiple mobile numbers with a particular person. So there can be many values of this attribute mobile number. So it's going to be a multi-valued attribute. Then a derived attribute. Derived attribute is something which is not kind of present in the entity list, but yes, it can be derived. So for example, date of birth, let's say, is given for a particular student or employee, whatever. The age can be derived by subtracting by taking the subtraction of today's date and the date of birth. So age here is a derived attribute. Now if we can see relationships, there can be one-to-one relationships, one-to-many relationships, many-to-one relationships, and many-to-many relationships. So when we talk about one-to-one relationship, that means both the entities in which the relationship is going to be established can have will be having one instance in the relationship. So for example, if I am going to talk about something like a roll number and a student, so this is a kind of one-to-one relationship, although these are not entities which we are going to actually represent in our database, but roll number, only a single roll number will be assigned to one student here. This in this way we can understand this one-to-one concept. Then there can be one to many relationships. So for example, there are courses, and on one side of the relationship you have instructor. So one instructor can deliver many courses. So the this relationship which is kind of delivering or taking that particular course is from instructor side of view, it is going to be a one to many relationship. Then many to one relationship is just opposite of one to many relationship. Then have many to many relationships. So for example, we talk about in a scenario in which employee is let's say involved in multiple projects, and each and every project is also having multiple employees, but many employees working on it. So in this kind of scenario, the relationship between the project and the employee will be many to many. So this is what I have taken a quick overview of types of entities, then types of attributes, and then type of relationships. Now coming to with all this platform built, or with all this understanding about ER diagram and about its three principal components, how are we going to draw the ER diagram? So there is a we can say a set step of set procedures which are to be followed step by step in order to arrive at a correct ER diagram. So first of all, we need to identify the entities, and from where we are going to identify the entities? We are going to identify the entities given in the problem and from those constraints. So you are given a problem, let's say for example a university database is there, and instructor will be taking multiple courses, a student will be in enrolled in multiple we can say courses and so on and so forth, and if there is a kind of inclusion of building or infrastructure, in which particular building which course or which faculty is going to be run from that particular building, something of that sort. So this kind of problem scenario is going to be given to to the database administrator. So from here, he or she needs to identify all the entities first, and then entities, as you are aware, that they are going to be represented with the help of a rectangle. So each and every entity should be embedded in a rectangle and properly labeled. Then after identification of entities, there is going to be an identification of relationships, that which particular entity is going to be related to which kind of which other entity, and the connection between them, that is the relationship between two entities, is in the form of a shape of a diamond. This we have already seen in our previous lectures. So two rectangles and then diamond in between connecting these two rectangles. So diamond is showing the relationship, and there is no direct connection between entities. A relationship has to be there, and relationships cannot be connected with each other. Relationships has to be connected with your entities. So now we also have attributes for the entities. So these attributes are to be kind of labeled and connected. Attributes are going to be represented with the help of ovals, and each and every entity is going to have many ovals around it. Then if you have any redundant entities or redundant relationships, those are needed to be kind of removed, or those are needed to be taken care of, eradicated. Then also we need to make sure that your ER diagram is going to support all the data provided to design the database. That means whatever problem you are being given with, all the information given into that particular problem should be we can say represented with the help of ER diagram, and it should not leave any detailed unattended, and definitely all those key attributes are to be also highlighted. So with this we have seen what actually ER diagram is. This we are seeing since a couple of lectures before also. Then today we have taken a quick kind of recap, and we have also seen what are the types of these three principal components of entities, attributes and relationships, which are among ER diagram. Then we have also seen the series of steps, that what are the steps involved in designing an ER diagram. So, for example, identification of entities, then we have to see the relationships, then connection of those entities using the relationships, then modeling of attributes and so on and so forth, which we have just seen. With all this knowledge, with all this setup, let us try to implement this for a particular example, in which we are going to give going to study a company in which an employee is working on many projects, and these projects are controlled by one department. So, there can be there are departments which are going to supervise many projects, and these projects are having employees working on them. And now what are the other available information which we can call as kind of more detailed or constraints is one employee supervises many employees. So, that means there is a relationship here. I will be coming to this in detail. Then an employee has one or more dependents, and one employee manages one department. So, these are the constraints. So, from this particular we can say problem, the first thing which we need to do is we need to identify the entities. So, entities, if you can see here, is we can easily identify that employee is an entity. Obviously, it is employees are working on the project. So, another entity is going to be the project. Then we have department which are controlled by which are we can say managed by employees, and these employees are also having their dependents, which is we can say which is uh, highlighted in one of the constraints. So, here from this particular problem statement of a company database, we can say that there are going to be four entities: employee, then projects, then we have departments, and also we have these dependents. So, this was the first step in how to draw an ER diagram. That is, to first is to identify all the entities. So, entities have been identified, and obviously we are going to embed these entities in a rectangle, and we are going to label them properly. Now, these not actually entity, but entity sets have been identified, and these entity sets have multiple instances given for a particular business scenario. So, for this constraint set which we have just studied, I have told you that there are four entity sets. These are employee, department, project and dependent. So, we are yet to we can say identify the attributes and identify the relationships and represent them properly. So, let us try to see what all kind of attributes can be there for employee. So, the relevant attributes could be name, social security number, then the sex, gender, then we have address, and then salary. Then definitely we have another entity which is department. So, the relevant attribute here are the name of the department, how many employees are there, that is the number of the employees, and then obviously location, if we are talking about multiple many locations for that particular company. Then for project, the relevant attributes could be number of number that is a project number, then we have name of the project, and then location from which particular that is from which particular place or from which particular office this project is being coordinated or implemented. Then we have dependents, that is the relevant attributes for this dependent entity could be name of the dependent, sex of the dependent, then birth date and the relationship. So, here we can see that in the second step or in the proceeding step, we have identified the attributes for the given entities. Now the question comes up, how are we going to identify the given identify the attributes for the given entities? That question I am going to answer in the second example. First, let us say, by our kind of sense of knowledge, we have found out some relevant attributes. That is, for an employee there should be a unique number, could be your social security number which is unique, or we can say here in Indian scenario it could be your Aadhaar number, then you have name, then you have address, salary and sex. So basically this is actually we can say is determined on the basis of knowledge. Now here we have identified all the attributes. Now again the scenario is we also need to identify the key attributes. So the key attributes, social security number, as I have told you, is something which can be used for uniquely identifying the entity. So SSN, social security number, is the key attribute for employee. Then department is having the number. So the department number is the key attribute for the department. For the project, the key attribute is going to be the project number or the number. And for a dependent entity, name can be a key attribute. Now why I am saying it can be a key attribute, I am going to tell you in some time. Now we have identified entities, we have also seen the attributes, and within those attributes we have also seen what all can be the key attributes. Now the third component which is remaining is about relationships. After identification and we can say representation of relationships, we are going to make a consolidated ER diagram. So let us first focus on relationships. So multiple employees work for a single department, and one department has multiple employees. This is what is being given in the constraints. If you have seen the problem statement carefully, this was mentioned that multiple employees work for a single department and vice versa, one department has multiple employees. So what kind of relationship will be there between employees and the department, that we can figure out from here. That is, the relationship between the employee and the department is many to one. So many employees and one department. So employee department is going to be the relationship between employees and the department is going to be many to one, and this is how kind of how you represent this relationship is given in the figure. So one side we have the entity employee, which is being we can say which is being represented here with the help of a rectangle. Here I have not shown the attributes, that we will be showing in the final figure. So on one side we have employee, on the another side we have department, and the relationship between the employee and the department is work for. So here for representing the cardinality of the relationship, we can use either the these notation where n represents for many and 1 represents the 1. So many to 1 relationship between employee and department, or we can also use here crowfoot notation, which we have seen earlier. So here we are going with kind of these letter notations. So employee n as in many works for one department. So many to one relationship between employee and the department. Coming to the relationship between your employee and the department, where it is not about working in the department, it is about the managing the department, and in the constraint it was given that one employee is going to manage one department. There cannot be multiple managers of a department. So when we are working on the relationship of managers, the employee manages department, this is going to be one-on-one relation, one-to-one relationship, because a single employee is going to manage the entire department, or we can say one department is handled by one manager, which is obviously an kind of employee. So here the department and employee relationship, employee and department relationship, which is being represented as managers. For management I am talking about, I am not talking about working. The previous relationship was works for, how many employees works for a department, and here this is saying how many employees are managing a department. So, one employee is managing one department. So, the relationship here is one on one, which is one to one relationship. And then the relationship between the entities department and the project. So, each department is controlling number of projects, and the number of projects are handled by a single department. So, projects are, we can say, many and department is one. So, the relationship between department and project is one to many, or we can say other way around, that is the relationship between project and department is many to one also. So, department, from department side we have number 1, and on the project side we have the notation of n, which represents many, and the relationship between them is control. So, one department is controlling many projects, and the number of projects handled by one single department are many, hence the relationship between department and project is one to many. So, we have seen three relationships here. One is department project, then we have seen employee managing department, and we have also seen employee works for the department. Now, we have also kind of have one more entity with us, which is the dependent. Now, this dependent, if you can see here on the screen, each employee is having some dependents. So, one employee can have multiple dependents. So, the relationship between employee and the dependent is going to be one to many. Now, please notice the relationship relationship diamond and the rectangle of the dependent. Now, here this dependent is represented as a weak entity. Now, why this is represented as a weak entity? Because this dependent is not having any key attribute, or any we can say attribute like primary key, which is there to identify it uniquely. So, dependent is not having any we can say attribute which is used to uniquely identify a particular dependent. So, here employee, so the dependent is being represented with a double rectangle which represents a weak entity. So, one employee may have many dependents. So, the relationship between employee and dependent is one to many, and the name of that relationship is dependent of. So, employee is dependent of, or dependents are dependent of employee, something of that sort. So, we can have a more appropriate keyword here in case of dependent of. So, we have seen the relationship between employee dependent, then project and department. We have also seen the relationship between employee and department in case of managing, and we have also seen the relationship relationship between employee and department in case of works for. So, here I have also told you that in case of employee and dependent, dependent is a weak entity which is denoted by a double rectangle. The entity, it is not having a primary key. So, a weak entity is here. And now, here on the screen you have the consolidated figure. This consolidated figure, if we can see here, is giving employee. Let us try to see the entities first. So, employee is the entity, and in the ovals you can see your that social security number, then first name, that last name, address, salary, say sex, name, birth date, and so on and so forth. All the attributes are connected with this employee, and these attributes are represented in the form of ovals, or these attributes are represented as ovals. Then on the right side we have the departments, with this departments, if you can see the relationship between employee and department is of two type, one which says works for, and another one which says manages. So here for works for, it is going to be many to one, because many employees are working for one department, and for management it is going to be one on one. And also please notice here that we have attributes of relationships also. So relationship attribute, for example, the relationship which is manages is having an attribute which is start date, and it has been shown here with the rectangle manages. Then departments, it is having number of employees, then location and all other attributes. Then departments are controlling projects. So on the right hand side you can see department controls projects, which is a one to many relationship with attributes of the project associated with it. And then we have employees are also working for the project. So there is also a relationship between employee project, which says employee works on project, and for how many hour it is working, that is the attribute of your relationship. So hours is shown as the attribute of the relationship works on. And then we have this relationship as many to many. Also we have here the dependent relationship between the employee and the dependent, which is shown as a weak entity, a weak relationship. And employee is also kind of supervising employee itself. So this is, we can say, a recursive relationship. So one employee is supervising many employees. So here a relationship between employee to employee, which is one to many, and the relationship is supervision. So in this way we have seen that all the steps are being implemented properly, and finally we have a corrected consolidated ER diagram of one particular, we can say, a company database. So this is how we generate our entity relationship diagrams. I hope you have understood the procedure correctly. Here is a list of references which is being used for the preparation of lecture. Hope you enjoyed the lecture. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, take care. Goodbye.